Welcome back, everyone. This is Austin Reville with 2F by C Tactical on our From the Vault series, exploring interesting and unique firearms throughout history that come through our shop, as well as just oddballs that come through our store or in our own personal collection. We do have something a little bit different today than we have in the recent weeks. So today we have kind of a comparison video, very different than what I've done before, and we happen to get our hands on the new battle rifle. The M7 is what it's been redesignated as for the United States military, which is the SIG Sauer MCX Spear. Here, we happen to have this on hand. Very lucky to have it. But you can't really do a Spear video without a SCAR 17 video, and just showing off the SCAR 17, I mean, come on. You gotta have it, right? So we figured we will compare these guns side by side and kind of go a little bit into how we got here. So when we think about military rifles, at least U.S. military rifles, we started with the M14. Unfortunately, I don't have one to show you. That's where we started out post-World War II. So we're talking pre-war, Cold War, moving forward. We started out with the M14, which got phased out relatively quickly due to its weight, its size, and there were some reliability issues. And then we went immediately from that to a mid-rifle cartridge with the M16A1. This is a 1973 Colt variant M16A1 here. So this was our follow-up design. We followed up with that. And as we have progressed, we have moved on from the A1 design and progressed through, A2s. This is a this is more like an A3 variant. We've progressed, upgraded it. Differences between this and this are minimal, but there are some slight design changes that go along with it. That's for another video. And then by the 2000s, fall of the Soviet Union's happened in the early 90s, and we start really thinking about that next step. What is that next piece? How do we move forward with a weapons platform? Early 2000s, we do explore adopting a different rifle away from the M4. So you got to think the 80s, M16A1s, A2s, A3s, all the way up through the 80s. Then by the 90s, the M4 variant starts popping up. We see that post Black Hawk Down, for instance. We start seeing the M4s pop up. Then in the early 2000s, we get an H&K XM8. Ends up being a prototype weapon that the U.S. military took a hard look at. And they decided, for somewhat controversial reasons, not to pursue that particular weapons contract and stick with the M4 variant of the AR-15. But that was to change very quickly. And we had realized, even by the XM8 period, we need to start looking at that next weapon system. And we're seeing special forces start to experiment with other weapon systems outside of the AR-15. Q Honey Badger for a close quarters combat QCB role, and maybe 300 Blackout, stuff like that. We do see them experiment with H&K 416s, which are piston-driven AR-15 variants, more in common with the AR-18, if you will, not to get too far in the weeds with that. And then we see the SCAR 17 pop up, late 2000s, early 2010s. 308 full battle rifle. Now, unlike the AR-15 variant, this is a full battle rifle, or an assault rifle, if you will, because it's select fire, full rifle cartridge, instead of mid-tier rifle cartridge gun. These are extremely good guns. The FN out of Belgium came up with them. They do use a piston gas system. Honestly, they're very cool guns. They've gotten very expensive, unfortunately. There are some disadvantages to these. They have a tendency to eat optics like there's no tomorrow. The rail system on this is notoriously short, so you are limited on how much you can mount on this particular weapon system. Overall, for a battle rifle, though, an extremely light rifle. So we take a look at these, and we ultimately decide not to go with them as our main new issued rifle. The U.S. military has decided, again, in my humble opinion, controversially, that we need to move away from mid-rifle cartridges and go up to full battle rifle cartridges. So we're kind of going back. One of the reasons why we dropped the M14, we felt like it was too uncontrollable, and the 308 too heavy, too much recoil. Let's drop down to a mid-tier cartridge, the 5.56 caliber or 223 caliber. And now we're kind of scaling back up to it is a 20 caliber rifle, the 227 or 6.8 Spear, around, which is what we're going towards, which is 227 caliber, if you will, which is very similar to the 280 British that came out during the FAL trials all the way back in the 1950s. What comes around goes around, I suppose. And we decided this is the way to go. But we need a new weapon system to support it. Enter SIG. SIG wins the military rifle contract with this, which is an updated take and an enlarging, if you will, of their MCX platform. They call it the MCX Spear. This is an interesting weapon system because it's a hybrid. It's an MCX without it actually being an MCX in some ways. So the SIG MCX is a very popular weapons platform. There are militaries around the world that use it. There are a lot of law enforcement that use it. It is an AR-looking gun, but it's not an AR. This is not a buffer tube here. This is, and it's kind of stiff, this is a swinging, I can get it to do it. It's hard to do it while you can show it. This is a swinging side-folding stock, very similar on the MCX. There is no buffer tube, buffer spring, or anything back here on this. It's all captured within the receiver. The bolt has two slide springs on it itself that operate inside the rifle. So you get rid of the whole buffer system, which allows you to cut down the overall length of the rifle, because on an AR-15 you cannot do that because you have to have something for the recoil operating spring. So the MCX is a kind of revolutionary updated take on the AR, if you will. Is piston system, which is more reliable than the typical gas impingement system, which you see on the AR-15. Now, this one is a 308 variant. I do not have a 6.8 Spear variant. The 308 variant is much more common, and these have started to get issued out as of December of 2023. So these are actively going out to the military right now in the Army. The U.S. Army is the one who adopted these as the new replacement rifle. There's some kind of hit or miss reporting. It does appear that most of the rifles going out right now are in the NATO 7.62x51 NATO cartridge, not in the new 6.8 Spear cartridge. It does appear that may be the case. It takes a while to ramp up and completely change over a cartridge system when you've been stocking NATO calibers for the last 70 years. That's where the controversy for this thing kind of starts. We are a NATO country still. And the whole point of NATO is to make cross-platform access, at least for calibers, of the countries within that alliance. So if we're fighting in Ukraine today, we could ask England to provide ammunition for us, and they would have the 5.56 and 7.62x51 calibers to do so. No one is going to adopt 6.8 Spear. That is just the truth. It's going to be the United States alone. These are extremely expensive rifles. The cost of the taxpayer is much higher than the M4s that will currently be issued. It's much higher than this. It's about $1,000 a rifle to the U.S. military and the SCAR 17 platform. This is a very interesting take. So getting into this rifle, there are a few differences from the AR to this one, and from the MCX even to this one. So first off, starting off, you do have an adjustable gas block here. It is adjustable. It's a two-position suppressed, unsuppressed gas block to make it very easy. These rifles are designed to shoot suppressed all the time. That is the idea. They will come with a SIG suppressor. That this is currently doesn't have it on there, and it's set up with a Swamp Fox optic, but this is optics and suppressed all the time. That is the idea. The thing that makes this kind of interesting, and I'm unsure where this comes from. I don't know if the U.S. military requested this, or if SIG decided to do it, or if it's just it was an afterthought. I don't really know. I don't think it was an afterthought. I should rephrase that. So it has your traditional AR-15 controls. You have your selector switch down near the pistol grip, right? You have a charging handle right up above, your forward assist. You do have an extra anodized piece right here for your deflector plate. It is a higher pressure cartridge in 308 or 6.8 Spear, which is 6.8 Spear is moving at like 3,800 feet per second. Heavy cartridge. compared to 5.56. And you have your magazine release right where you expect to see it. This is a nice little piece here. This is your bolt catch. So you can just flick your bolt catch with your finger right here. Very cool. Actually, a very nice piece. You do on the other side have your traditional AR style bolt catch with some cutouts to protect it so you don't accidentally bump it. But this is where it gets kind of weird. They added a non-reciprocating attached charging handle, side folding charging handle to this gun. Truthfully, there's no reason for that to be here. I've had an opportunity to kind of shoot this and play around with it. This doesn't really need to be here. I don't know whose idea it was to attach this, in my humble opinion. This whole cut in here, it's extra machining, it's extra weight. And that's the thing that's going to be my other drawback to this rifle. This is extremely heavy compared to an MCX. This is a very heavy rifle, and right now it's not even loaded. I mean, I would say this is almost... Yeah, these rifles right now, unloaded, this is much heavier than this one. And they both shoot the same caliber, and they're virtually the same overall length. I guess the only thing you could say, it has a more full-length rail versus the SCAR 17. But the reality is it's an excessively heavy weapon system, in my opinion. And that's with it unloaded, without your kit, without your armor, without your backpack, your helmet, all the other things that you would be carrying in the battle. But this is what we decided to go with. In some ways, we were always a war behind, but the idea behind this one is for body armor penetration of the next-gen body armor for the Chinese and the Russians, to be fair. So 6.8 Spear running at 3,800 feet per second is supposed to be an armor-piercing round that will go through virtually everything. That is the idea. I'm sure it will at that kind of speeds, but whether that's 100% necessary, I guess that's for you to decide. I guess I have my own personal feelings on these. The SCAR 17 is an excellent weapons platform, other than the fact that it eats optics and the rail is short. That's kind of the main drawbacks. There's some aftermarket fixes for the rail. The Swamp Fox actually has held up quite well on this thing. So I haven't really ate that optic yet, but if you have any kind of cheaper optics, the SCAR 17 will eat it. This is not a bad shooter. Like, it's a relatively smooth shooter, to be completely honest with you. It's just kind of excessively heavy. And of course, when you add your suppressor, that's weight and all that. But anyway, I wanted to bring you this because we have the opportunity to have both of these side by side. It's not very often that you get the next-gen weapon system in. We're very blessed. There's great breakdowns of this rifle from, I believe Forgotten Weapons did it. I know Brandon Herrera did, and he got to go out and shoot it in the 308 variant. Some people love it, some people hate it. As with everything, you could call me a grumpy old man. It's change. You can ask my wife. I don't love change. It's not that I do agree that the M4 is antiquated and it is time to move on. Humbly, I don't know if this is the weapon system to go with, but in some ways it makes sense to go with SIG. Now that SIG won the military sidearm contract as well, sticking with them for the battle rifle and having one supply chain system makes a lot of sense in a lot of ways. The new caliber has its issues, but I feel like that's probably been done ad nauseum, and I haven't really gotten trigger time behind the new caliber, so don't really have anything to compare it to completely. I've seen some of the videos, and it does seem, I mean, it's a higher pressure round. It does seem like the kick can be quite a bit, but, without me personally having shot it, I can't say it for sure. But anyway, I hope you like, comment, subscribe. This is a bit different, but we wanted to bring this to you just because it's very unique, and it's an awesome opportunity to do kind of a side-by-side comparison. In a lot of ways, these two are very similar rifles, and they were both designed with kind of the similar purpose in mind. It's interesting that this is the one that the U.S. military decided to go with, for what it's worth. But then again, the M16 was revolutionary at its time, and that worked out quite well after about 10 years more of development. So maybe, 5-10 years down the line, this will really prove itself. But anyway, till next time, we'll see you then.